Hello, welcome back to my channel. This video is long overdue, but I had to really take my time and make sure I chose the best broker that was a good fit for me. As you guys can see from the title, I finally chose my broker, which I will reveal at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned. But before I do that, I want to go over some good questions to ask when interviewing for your brokerage. So let's get right into it. First things first, you need to know if you want to go with a franchise broker or a independent broker. For you guys who don't know what the difference is, the franchise brokers are like the big name brokers. So Keller Williams, Caldwell Banker, Century 21, Danbury, Key Realty, Howard Hanna. Those are the franchise brokerages. Now, what I will say about the franchise brokerages are they're usually nationwide. So I'm sure everybody in a real estate industry has heard of Keller Williams. They're big across the nation, all 50 states. They're even in a couple of countries. Same thing for Caldwell Banker. Big name, all 50 states. I'm not sure if they're international, but they're across the board. Same thing with Danbury, Key Realty have been around for a long time. So them are the big name brokerages and or what we call franchise brokerages. Independent brokerages are your smaller companies. So it might be a local brokerage. It might be only in Georgia or based out of only in Ohio or based out of only in Michigan. So that's the difference between a franchise brokerage and a independent brokerage. So if you didn't know the difference, that's the difference. So that's first things first. Do you want to be with a huge nationwide company, or do you want to be something that you feel like is a little maybe smaller, maybe local based? So that's a decision you would have to make also. However, whichever one you decide, the questions will be the same on what you should ask your brokerages. So I interviewed about 4 brokerages, and I interviewed Keller Williams, Caldwell Banker, Red One Realty, and I interviewed a independent brokerage, which is called Carlton Realty, which is based out of Columbus, Ohio. Red One is actually independent also. I thought that they were a franchise until I interviewed them, and they actually are independent. And that's why it's a very good idea to make sure you interview, because going into it, unless you already have a background with real estate, you don't know these things unless somebody tells you or unless you already know. So that cleared that up. I was wrong. I thought they were franchised and they are actually independent. So these couple questions are very important for you to ask whoever you interview. It does not matter if it's franchise or if it's independent. These are good questions you need to ask. So make sure you write these down, okay? And if I look away, it's because I wrote them down. And this is in no specific order. One good question to ask your brokerage is commission split. I know people like to say, oh, it's not about the money, it's not about this, it's not about that. It's not, but at the end of the day, a real estate agent is a 1099 employee, meaning we are independent contractors, okay? So yeah, you kind of want to know what your commission split is. That's just what it is. I don't feel like that should be the first question you ask. No, you don't go into an interview and say, well, how much y'all paying an hour? That wouldn't be the first question you ask. You know what I mean? Like any other interview. But yes, the pay eventually comes up. Your salary eventually is going to come up. You know what I mean? If you know you're not getting paid that much, some people won't even interview. It's no point. Some people be like, oh, On Indeed, it said this amount, but I feel like I can kind of negotiate once we get the interviewing and they know what experience I'm bringing to the table, etc. So commission split is definitely a question you need to ask. I wouldn't make it the first question. I would not do that. But that is a question you need to ask. The typical answers you're probably going to get is either 70-30, 75-25. Some are 65-35. I heard 60-40, all the way down to 50-50. Okay, so commission splits is definitely a question you need to ask. Okay, another question you need to ask is about training. How much training are they going to provide? Is it free training, which most of them are? But how much training? Are you going to have a mentor? Some of them have one-on-one training. Some of them have classes that they offer. Some of them have, structure like set up specifically for real estate agents, like a starter package. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So the training is very, 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 very important. What I will say is all the brokerages I interviewed, they all offer training. I will give you that. Some of them offered it in different ways than others, but they all across the board offered training. So the training is very, very important, especially for new agents, because again, we're being put, it's like starting a new field. When you're a nurse, you have to do clinicals. When I was in therapy school, I had to do clinicals first. That's training. You can't just get thrown out there and think you're going to know what you're doing, what to do, how to go about things. That's just not how it works. So it's the same concept. You want to know how much training you guys offer. Like I said, do you get a mentor? Will you have somebody one-on-one? Is it somebody I can call at any time, any day, any questions asked, things like that? So training is a very good question you need to ask also. Another question you need to ask is, what do they offer as far as marketing? And what I mean by that is some brokerages provide your signs for you. Some don't. So the signs that you see in the yard that says, coming soon, or for sale with the person's picture on it and their name on it, some brokerages provide that for you. Some do not. Some, if they don't provide it for you, they will give you, X amount of money towards it, or they'll give it to you at a discount. You know what I mean? Where others, hey, that's all on us, we'll give you that. We'll give you business cards. Some don't provide business card, but they'll give you the link, or they'll give you 20% off. They get their marketing stuff for a cheaper deal. Some of them will set you up with a website. You have your own email address, a company bag, welcome this, welcome that, a logo, whatever. That type of stuff is important to people as well. So that's what you need to ask also. Let me see. We talked about marketing. We talk about commission splits. Talked about, I just got off of work, so my mind shuts off. Oh, technology and the support. That too. So another thing you need to ask also is there a franchise fee? The franchise fee is usually associated with the franchise brokerages. So the big name ones, like I said, Keller Williams, Remax, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, they have a franchise fee, okay, per transaction. So like Coldwell Banker, franchise fee was 6%. So the example that I was given when I did my interview was, if you had a $200,000 house and say the agent only took 3%, you take 3% of that. And then after that, you take 6% franchise fee off that, and then a transaction fee off that. And then whatever else is left is what you walk away with. Okay. So if your house don't sell for that much, you really not walking away with, or not your house, but if you don't sell a house for that much, then you don't really walk away with that much, if that makes sense, because that 6% franchise fee is per transaction across the board. So the cheaper the house is, the less that franchise fee will be. The more the house is, the bigger that fee will be, if that makes percent. It's a difference between taking 6% off of a $350,000 house versus taking 6% off of a $150,000 house. Huge difference. So that's something you need to ask. Do you have a franchise fee? If you do, what is it? What is your transaction fee? What is that? Most of them was $150 per transaction. So some of the ones had a transaction fee, but they didn't have the franchise fee. So you're just paying $150. Okay. The ones that had a franchise fee, you're paying the transaction fee and the franchise fee on top of the taxes you already need to take out, because again, we're independent contractors. So to me, them are really good like starter questions. I'm trying to think of the other one. I feel like it was another one, but I couldn't remember it because I was like writing this down when I was at lunch at work. So, but the commission split, the training and technology that they offer, the marketing that they offer, the franchise fee, if there is one, them are really good questions to ask. On top of, I asked like approximately how many agents was part of that specific building. And the reason I asked that was because I feel like if there's a whole lot of agents, you might get lost in the shuffle. So like one of the brokerages, it's like 500 agents. And I'm like, that's kind of a lot, I feel like, you know what I mean? Versus another brokerage, it's about 200. So I feel like it's a little bit more smaller, a little bit more personable, maybe a little bit more one-on-one for real. If it's smaller, 200 employees versus 500, that's a big difference. So, you can ask that as well. That was just a question that I asked on my own. So, yeah. So, okay. That's all that. Okay. Make sure y'all write that down. Okay. Now, the whole part of this video. Who did I choose? Drum roll, please. I chose to go with independent. And the broker I chose was Carlton Realty, based out of Columbus, Ohio. I chose not to go franchise because, in my opinion, the franchise came with franchise money, if that makes sense. Okay. Some of the fees, like I said, associated with the franchise brokerages cost more money in the end versus the independent brokerage that I chose to go with. So my brokerage is called Carlton Realty, based out of Columbus, Ohio. Have been there for 30 years. I actually did a virtual Zoom with them before I started my classes back in the summertime. And I was just really impressed with how they delivered their message. And, they just seemed a little bit knowledgeable, and it didn't seem like they were trying to like sell you or just trying to bring anybody on board. The owner of the company, which is who I actually interviewed, is actually an instructor at my school there in Columbus. So he teach like all of the classes. And so I just got this really, really, really positive vibe. I felt like I would be a really good fit in a maybe smaller situation starting out at first. I'm not saying I'm completely, cancel out the option of going to a big brokerage maybe later on. But I feel like getting my feet wet as a beginner, I feel like smaller would be the best fit for me. So that's what I chose to do. But like I said, do your research, interview. Like, you really can't do too much interviewing. I interviewed, like I said, 4. So, some people interview more than that. I didn't interview Century 21. I actually went to a career expo, and I wasn't really sold on whatever they were really trying to offer. And there were a couple other like local brokerages that I had never heard of, but they wasn't really I don't feel like bringing anything that I didn't already hear at that point. So yes, so I'm really, really excited. I'm going to come back and do another video and tell you guys all about my brokerage and why I really chose them, and just some of the other reasons why I went with them versus franchise. But I wanted to kind of keep this video short. So that's all I have for y'all. Whoever's returning, I appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, comment, leave me some feedback. Definitely all the new real estate agents that's coming up or trying to get into the field, get into it. It seemed like it's gonna be a really good fit. I'm really excited to start this new journey. Do not listen to nobody else. They go, oh, don't get into real estate. Do what you please, okay? I have a really good feeling about it, and so I'm super excited. So yes, please, please, please comment. Leave me some feedback. If you are new, please consider returning. I talk everything positivity on my channel, and I will see you guys on the next video.